Connecticut Today with Paul Pacelli on WICC 600.
A lot of eyebrows raised, a lot of heads turned among the columnists here in the state regarding a social media campaign, a PR campaign targeting the state's major insurance companies and their leaders. They're calling them the Five Families, they being the Connecticut Citizen Action Group, CCAG. A lot of people say, hey, this imagery of associating it with the mafia, right down to some of the graphics that look like the old posters from the Godfather movies, is not good, and it is an ethnic slur. Andre DiMino, the communications director for the Connecticut, the Italian-American, One Voice Coalition, continues with us. Andre, you mentioned something a couple of minutes ago that it seems to you and to a lot of folks that Italians are it's okay. You can do it, you can get away with it because, hey, there's mob movies all over the place and Italians embrace it, I was told by an earlier caller. So what's the big fuss? What's your answer to that?
Well, first of all, the movies and so forth are fictional. Here we got real life with this situation in Connecticut. But I have to tell you that when you're talking about the unbalance here, there's mobsters and organized crime in all ethnicities. But every single time you see it, it's about Italian Americans. And I can tell you that it affects people. It's an effect to have that stereotype. It's happened to me personally. It happened to my father was a scientist. But because he came from Sicily and we lived well, they always said, I heard people saying when I was a kid that we were connected. And, how does that affect people? I bought my own home when I was 26 years old because I worked hard. But no, they said, it's because he's connected. And it's unfortunate that this stereotype still prevails to today. Every time you see an Italian-American in popular media, he's either a mobster or a mafioso, or because of shows like Jersey Shore, he's a bimbo or a buffoon.
Jersey Shore. Who watches that, Andre? I mean, come on. I would, no, and that's kind of a rhetorical question, right? I would watch that and say, who is wasting their time with this, Andre? I don't get it.
I know. Unfortunately, a lot of people waste a big moneymaker for MTV, and we fought them, and we've been fighting all these shows that have these stereotypes. Saturday Night Live still does it. Again, even people like Chuck Dodd on the news, he even used a mafia symbolisms and so forth. You got to stop. I think you said it before earlier in the show. They wouldn't do it with any other ethnicity. Why is it okay for Italian Americans?
And yet, Andre, as I've heard before on the show, and I've heard it from people, I said, well, but they flock to the mob movies. They love The Sopranos. Everybody goes, hey, oh, hey. Yeah, but that still doesn't make an abuse of that, Andre. There's satire and there's abuse, and it doesn't allow the abuse.
Right, absolutely. And of course, yes, there are some people that play up to the stereotype, and they might be mob wannabes. And those are Italian Americans that they're making a big mistake in doing that. They don't know the long-term effects of these negative stereotypes. And it's something that we can't let to go on without opposing it. It can affect, and just imagine a young person going to rent an apartment or join a club or get involved with something, and that person, without saying it, is going to say, oh, is this guy a bimbo, a buffoon, a mobster? You don't know what that underlying stereotype does to people.
Andre, on another subject, I have you here. I might as well ask you. We are getting near the Columbus, what's still referred to as Columbus Day in some areas, yes. In some areas not. I know I talked about this with you numerous times before with the Columbus statue here in the Bridgeport area. What's the tone on that this year? Any worse? Any better? I do see where there are some Columbus Day celebrations, observances around the country, around the area. Now I see we're segueing, Andre, to some areas say, okay, we'll do Italian heritage instead. What's the situation on that?
Well, we are winning some battles. We haven't won the war yet, but there's still an attack on Columbus and our heritage. Why is it that Italian Americans have to be told who they can honor? Columbus is an iconic symbol as an atonement or apology for our ancestors and the discrimination that they went through and denigration and even the largest lynching in America. And in 1892, President Harrison said Columbus Day would be a day to apologize for that. And therefore, we should not lose that important symbol. We're winning some battles. We've had a number of school systems now that have had to reverse themselves, put Columbus Day back on. We have statues now that have been preserved. There's what we, Italian American One Voice Coalition, instituted a landmark federal suit in West Orange, New Jersey, because that mayor took down the statue of Columbus, and we're fighting it now in federal court on the basis that it's in a violation of our civil rights because Italian Americans are a recognized group under the 14th Amendment, and you can't substitute one group in place of another. So we're hoping that that suit goes forward, and that could be precedent-setting if we win that suit.
And Andre, look, history is not all history is clean. It's not, a virgin white towel. Every ethnicity, every person that has ever led a battle or explored, at least as I've been taught and I've done my own research, is not a perfect person. So I always say, with these statues, with these plaques, learn from them. And if people want to have an alternate discussion, I have no problem with that.
Well, yeah, but see, in the case of Columbus, it is purposeful because it goes back to Howard Zinn, who was a self-declared anarchist and Marxist that started his attack on destroying America by first, in his book, attacking Columbus and making up all these false atrocities that have been totally disputed by reputable sources and primary authors and so forth. But it just continues, and that's really how this cancel culture got started. They go after Columbus to go after our country. So an attack on Columbus is not only an attack on Italian Americans, but it's an attack on our country and our way of life.
Well, Andre, you mentioned the word Howard Zinn. He's a BU guy, and yes, I am a BU grad, so I am I am well versed with Mr. Zinn's work. It's interesting, it's controversial, but yeah, I'm not surprised he is out in front with that. The website is IAOVC.org, IAOVC.org, the Italian American One Voice Coalition. Andre, good to speak with you again. Take care and have a good holiday season. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. The same to you.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. So there you go. All right. Well, wanted to get input there from Andre DiMino. Check out the website IAOVC.org, the Italian American One Voice Coalition. And you know what? Listen, I can purely believe. For example, with his experience, young guy in a northeast urban area with an Italian last name is flashing around a lot of money and buying a house. Well, how have we been conditioned? Hey, the guy's mobbed up, he's mafiosi, But again, part of that, as he mentioned, as I mentioned, there is a fascination. There is a fascination with mob movies, mob television, the mafiosi character, because we can be detached from it. See, that's one of those things where you can almost live, and not a lot of people would admit this, but they're almost living vicariously, through those characters. Thanks once again to Andre DiMino, friend of the program here. Okay, on the button, 446 on the 6 is traffic and weather together right here on WICC.